issues relating to anger. And so I thought maybe I would just sit down and take a little bit of time to talk about some methods that I have found which help with anger, and also a little bit of background into like why anger would come up. And I mean, given the way the world is right now, there's quite a bit of anger. Though maybe that's just because a veil has kind of been lifted. By that, I mean right now in the US, I'm not from the US, but it just seems like a worldwide thing. Veils have sort of been lifted and people are, well, not fully aware of how things are around the world. To an extent, more aware of what's going on around them, like the negative forces, like just bad things that happen, societal, interpersonal, that kind of thing. And people are a lot more angry. And I think that's an actual thing that's going on. Like, people on average are more angry. In fact, I was reading on Reddit, it was talking about people who did long prison stints. They were in there for like 10 years or more. There was a person who was in prison in 2001, they went in. And they got out in 2007. Or 2017, sorry. They were talking about how people just looked angrier than when they went in. And they were talking about how back then there were parks and people were always outside doing stuff, going to shops. And that's all gone now. And now the streets are empty, and the parks that used to be full of people, skate parks, outdoor places like that, rinks, are all deserted, basically. And that really is how it is. Even in my experience when I was a kid, I grew up in a small town, you'd have a couple people at the park all the time, but there's nobody there now. They all left and either made something of themselves or fell into repetitive habits, I guess, that ultimately became their downfall, or put them in a situation where they don't want to be in. But I feel like people are now way more glued to social media and things like that than they were back in the past. See, I grew up in the early 2000s, and yeah, there was the news, which was negative sometimes. I remember seeing reports about homeless people. There was this giant parkade that was in the city near the town I lived in, and there were people in sleeping bags and boxes and stuff, but it wasn't like it is now. When I drive outside, I'll see maybe 3 or 4 homeless people all the time, just people walking, or they're kind of drugged out, or they're not doing well, you know? People struggling publicly for everyone to see, basically. And I don't know if it's just that people have decayed, or if it was always like this, but because I was younger, I had that veil on, and I don't know. One thing that kind of bothers me, it always has, is that people only really focus on the US when it comes to news or talking about anything like that. It's always related just to the US. And it's like, well, there's so much stuff going on around the world that would shock people, that would make them disturbed, but nobody talks about it because I guess to them these people don't matter. I don't know. Or they only matter when they're being used as like a pawn or a talking piece. Like, even just like down in Mexico, there's like things that go on every day that are horrifying, like horrific. South America, places like that, but no one talks about it. And it's like first world problems, I hear. Like, that's what I think whenever people over here in North America, well, Mexico's in North America, but like people who are over here, US or Canada, they talk about these things, these random little things that bother them, and it's like, it's not a real problem. It's not something that you should be this upset about. And worries me because it makes me feel like people won't, if something happens where they have to defend themselves, they have to stand up for something, they won't be able to, and they'll just be easily taken over and destroyed. And it's so, like, people pretend to care about things, and I don't know if it's to make themselves feel better and think that they're a good person, quote unquote, to make society feel better or the people around them, or to fit in, or if it's a mixture of both, or if it's something entirely else. Like, I don't, like, let's say I went out and started helping homeless people. That's great. But for me, I want to help people who are there because of mental issues. And I understand drug addiction is it's a mental issue, but that's a bit different. If it was something that couldn't immediately cause damage to other people, like children or just anyone who's there, that wouldn't immediately cause societal decay, like drug addiction, like fentanyl, for example. To the point where there was actually a news story about this nurse. She went and she was replacing, say, like drugs like fentanyl or whatever that were used for surgeries with like saline. And one, that could be an issue with this person's blood because you don't know if they've picked up anything, but two, the person, like fentanyl, I believe, in a hospital setting is used for people to like sleep. It's like a anesthetic or something like that. I think that's the wrong term, but it's something that makes you go to sleep. But replacing it with saline means somebody would just be awake, or the effect would be greatly numbed. But when I see people in the street who are like homeless, there's always that nagging feeling that it's because they're a drug addict. And if they're a drug addict, they might be putting other people in danger. I'm not saying I don't care, as in like they're less, I don't care if someone who is doing something just to themselves, for example a drug addiction, if they're just harming themselves, of course I would rather they were not harming themselves. But if it's something like that where it's killed people for no reason, just because they were there and they got a brief contact with this drug, which is, it's insidious because so little of it can cause an overdose. It's like what's wrong with you? Like, you're an asshole. Do you know what I mean? And then people will get mad at me for saying that, and it's like, I understand there's a lot of addictions out there. There's a lot of things, vices, let's call them. For me, overeating, not taking care of myself, it's a vice. It's the same as like a drug addiction or any sort of vice, right? It's all the same thing. Some people, unfortunately, get caught up in actual, like, addictive, psychoactive drugs or whatever, or opioids, things like that, even pot. You'll have the dudes who are like, yeah, man, I'm not addicted, I just smoke 15 joints a day, and, like, I need to smoke 15 more before I go to sleep. And it's like, okay, it's not, like, gonna hurt anybody, but you just gotta, like, roll your eyes a bit. And, I mean, I'm sure most people have smoked pot. It's whatever, it's no big deal. Same with, well, it's no big deal, I guess, in terms of, like, it won't affect you in terms of killing you very easily. But, do you get what I mean? It's not on the same level as, like, a fentanyl. I couldn't care less if people smoke pot. I personally don't like the smell of it. I think it smells gross and it kind of makes my asthma act up, but it's not like a drug that's just gonna wipe out people and kill people. And you know something? I've known several people who have died because of fentanyl, and I'll tell you a story that might put into perspective why I kind of have not a hate, but I guess a very strong dislike of the drug-addicted homeless, as opposed to the mentally ill. I am fine with mentally ill homeless and would be happy to help them. I understand that mental illness is not like it's depicted in movies. I have suffered from mental illnesses before. There's people out there who'll be like, oh, you know, mental illness won't make somebody an asshole. Mental illness won't do this, that, and the third. Have you ever met someone who is actually severely mentally ill? Yes, it can. Mental illness can destroy someone's entire life. And and like in ways that you wouldn't even think if you hadn't have encountered somebody with mental illness. But on that same note, every single person on earth is different, has a completely different life, has a completely different brain. So they may have a very mild, I guess, comparatively, reaction to having a mental illness. But to get back to my issue with like the drug addiction thing, specifically like hard stuff. So back in the day, I was doing alright for money, right? I was able to help out one of my friends who I'd known for years. I first met her when I was like 14 and she was 12, to give you an example, and I'm 30 now. And this would have been when I was like 25, so I'd known her for quite a long time. Grew up alongside her, right? She was completely normal back in the day. She grew up, yes, she had like a rough upbringing in terms of like her parents and the situation there, but so did I, and so did my friend group. I had an abusive dad who would like slap me across the face and stuff. My own mom left when I was like 5 years old. I remember her leaving. My friend, she was from a single family, had stuff like that. Her stepdad went to prison for a while. He was gone for like 5-6 years. It was a rough neighborhood, rough stuff growing up, right? And that's fine. But over time, I guess she had fallen more and more into drugs, like hard drugs. I was told it was something like a horse tranquilizer way back then. Like, I guess that's ketamine. I guess, like, I don't do drugs, but that's apparently what ketamine is meant for. I don't know. But she went into that. She started dating these guys who were like messed up. And of course she wouldn't actually divulge what was going on, right? But I came into a situation where at that time I had decent money and I wanted to help people. I didn't want to see people who came from a situation like mine that was just kind of crappy. I didn't want to see them suffer, and I felt like, well, if I have this ability to help people financially, I want to. And at that time, this same friend had recently given birth to her daughter. So, she's in a shitty situation. She has no job, right? She lives with her single mom, and her stepfather's in prison. So I'm like, okay, look, I want to help make this situation better. I know that, like, you're going through some stuff, so I'm going to help you out. And I'm going to give you some money so you can keep your sister fed, or you can keep your daughter fed, and so you can help to just make sure that she's, like, not malnutrition or something like that, like she's good. Because I feel like everyone could use a helping hand sometimes, and especially when you're a single parent and you're not in like an optimal situation. She was like kind of, we all grew up kind of lower middle class, like with broken families, right? So I wanted to make sure, hey, I know you're going through some rough times. I have the ability to help you, so I want to help you. And so for a while I would give her like $250 or something, maybe like in the month, to just help for like diapers, stuff like that, because it's expensive. Well, eventually she tells me, hey, I need to go and pick up this like iPod or whatever, because I left it with some friends. So we drive to this motel, and I didn't realize what was going on because like I'm not knowledgeable on this stuff, you know? I don't know what kind of weird underbelly crap is going on. And like I never was into drugs really, so I don't know, I've never really done anything besides smoke weed when I was younger. So like I'm not into all this. So she takes me to this seedy hotel where she's going to meet her friend. And then it turns out, I didn't figure this out until later, but she went in and I thought, oh, well, I guess she got her iPod and her friends are just like at this hotel, you know, whatever. No, it turns out later she was trying to use me to take her to a drug thing, like to pick up, I assume, fentanyl or something. This was years ago. And it's like, how fucking dare you? Why would you do that to somebody? Like, what is mentally wrong with you? Someone's trying to help you, and it's not even just you, your kid, right? Well, come to find out, and I cut her off after I figured out what was going on. You know, call me so I'm gonna help them, right? Well, look what that got. But, so later on, after that, no contact. A couple years down the line, I see she gets arrested for basically trying to, like, it was like a knife point thing. She tried to rob somebody, so she got arrested. Later on, she becomes a missing person. Mind you, in this time, she also had another kid, but then she just decided to walk out of their lives and disappear. And yeah, that's when I found out later on that she was, like, yes, addicted to fentanyl and all this. And people left comments saying, like, she chose this over her own kids, and she has like 2 or 3 now, and she's still a missing person to this day. And it's like, listen, I get having like an addiction to something like food, or I don't know, like I've smoked cigarettes and wasn't addicted. I've drank alcohol and I don't think I was addicted. I was told to stop one time and I was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. No more drinks needed, and I just never drank again for years, like over a decade now. Almost 2 decades. That's the first one. The second person I knew, this is when I was younger, or well, it was probably the same time I was in high school. She was really nice. We talked online and stuff. I lived in a small town, so I wasn't able to go out and chill with her, but it was all good, right? Hey. She showed me some really cool songs. One of them is called Happiness by The Fray. It's a really good song. Well, I fall out, and eventually she starts dating this dude who's like a DJ or whatever. She gets addicted to drugs, of course, and opioids are going around now, so eventually she gets into harder drugs, which I would assume is where the fentanyl comes in, because, you know, I don't know, unless they're just using regular heroin, which seems to be not easy to find anymore, which is weird, but now it's almost all fentanyl apparently. This person, I go to like see, I wonder what they're up to. I Google them. They're dead. And they were only like 23 or something. Then there was one other. I met her through a friend I had when I was much younger. I was maybe like 8 or 9. Friends with this dude. This dude suffered a lot of racism and bullshit, but he was cool. I actually remember one time I was hanging out with him. We were just chilling at his dad's place. He was adopted. He was one of the coolest dudes I've met. But we're chilling there, and these rednecks drive by in like this GMC Jimmy, and they're like, "We see you, der baby," and they just peeled off. And it's like, why would you do that? But some people are just assholes. Anyways, through him, I met another woman, and we talked a little bit, and she was cool. She came from a situation similar. No real kind of strong family bond. Was lacking a lot of these things. And again, that'll damage people a lot. Like a lot. And I get that. I went to go Google her because I was like, hey, I want to know, like, is she doing better these days? How's she doing? I Google her. She's dead. And it's like, what the hell is going on? So we're keeping track. 2 people I know have died from fentanyl overdose. 1 person is missing, like, to this day, years missing. And it's like, this is like a sickness. And I don't know, like, I'm torn because here's another thing I've seen. I've personally seen people pretending to be homeless. Oh, and by the way, that friend who went missing, she also did this. I was driving my car down the road and I see her pretending to be homeless on the side of the road with a sign, and it's like, you're not homeless. You literally could ask for help, but you won't. Instead, you'll keep doing drugs. But later on, I saw this guy. He's panhandling on the side of the road. He's got his sign up. After he puts it away, he gets into his car, and it's a nicer car than mine. I drive a Beetle. This guy's driving like a BMW, and I wanted to get out and scream at him. It's like you're eroding the trust of people. You're taking from the goodness of people. And like, people like that tarnish everybody else. Even if they, well, I don't drugs that cause such issues like fentanyl, where you can overdose and die so quick, and someone else can come in contact with it and overdose and potentially die. It's really infuriating, because it's like, so now you're going to make it seem like everyone who is homeless is not just someone who is going through mental issues or is going through a tough time, but now you're going to make it seem like they're drug addicts, so you don't even want to go near them because they might give you this like contact high or whatever from the stuff they're injecting. I don't know. It's a sore spot, personally, for me. But that's the thing. I've tried to find ways to help to deal with anger and stuff like that, because my father was also very angry. Like I mentioned, he was abusive. He would call my siblings like, retarded and things like that, as well as me. He would slap me across the face, and one thing he liked to do was he would punch me in the stomach, and then like it's called winding somebody. What it does is you hit them in a certain spot in the stomach hard, and then they can't breathe and they fall down. I don't know if it's just because he was doing that on kids and he was like in his mid to late 20s or what, but I don't know. That's how I found out what winding was. But I'm sure a lot of anger comes from that, and it's difficult to not be angry when you see people who are putting other people in danger like that, when it comes to like drugs and things of that nature. So it took me a long time to get my anger under control. It's not like a case where like I'll digress again. There was a girl years and years ago, like over more than a decade now, this is probably like 2012, who I was sort of with briefly. I went over to her house one time, and her father came in the house and was screaming at the top of his lungs, would not stop screaming, and it was just bizarre. It's like, what? I don't know if he was on drugs himself, like methamphetamine or something, or I don't know, speed, and he was just angry or what, like why he was that mad. Because it's like, what? Why are you so angry? Like, situate yourself. It's just strange when you meet someone who is immediately hot-headed. But if I didn't working on stuff like that, that could have been me. Because in times of stress, anger can be worse, especially I find when you have family members who have a history of anger. In that situation, what I did to defuse it was I just walked up to him and was like, hi, and shook his hand, and he just looked bewildered, and then he stopped screaming. But I mean, hey. So, what's worked for me is I started on Lexapro, which was also for my anxiety, mainly for that, and a little bit of depression as well, but it started to help me to kind of see the positives around me, the good things around me. And if you watched my video on OCD and health anxiety and stuff like that, that was a major thing too. It allowed me to kind of still be focused forward. And that's the thing. Let's say you get really angry, if you're someone who had anger issues. Let's say you get really angry at someone and you punch them in the face. Then what? Then you either have to get into a fight where you get beat up or the other guy does and could possibly die, or you can just avoid the situation, not get so angry to the point that you hit someone. Because the thing is, once you do that, you can't really defend yourself anymore, in terms of, like, if they come at you, now you've put yourself in harm's way, physically. If you get mad at someone in a situation where it's not called for, and you're not physical, but you still get angry, that could cause social consequences. For example, if you're at work and you scream at somebody, now you might be at risk of losing your job, And like they say, the way the world is now, you're only a few paychecks away from homelessness. So you gotta think about these things, and it can be quite difficult, but you have to make sure that you think about them before you lose your cool. Because the consequence could be worse than what it was before for you. Like if you were angry before, you might be really angry if you don't kind of cool down and walk away. And there are situations where you really do. That's the only reasonable option, is to walk away. And I understand, like, if you have to get into a physical altercation with somebody because they won't, like, leave you alone, or they're advancing on you or something, that's different. But the whole way that, like, the world is, the only option for you if you have anger issues is to just walk away. Now, I'm not a doctor. I have a lot to learn in terms of mental health studies, in terms of, I was always antisocial kind of, so in terms of like just how people work in general. But like there's that saying, cooler heads prevail, and really think about it. Like you remember back, well, not remember because I wasn't born then, and I'm assuming most people watching weren't, but during the Cold War era, people wanted to launch missiles into each other, and they almost did. There was a false alarm where this one guy could have pushed a button and it would have released a missile, and that might have started World War III. This was in like the 70s or 80s. But he didn't. He waited. He was patient. And I think that really relates well to anger. Even if you're still pissed off, the consequences of being pissed off and not checking yourself can be far worse. It's like, that'll really give you something to be pissed off about if now you've destroyed your whole life because you didn't just walk away or just disengage from the situation. And that's really all you can do. Like, ultimately, I've found the only person who you really have control over is you. Society will be messed up. People will be messed up, and unless you get into like politics or something and you're able to make real changes, if you're just a regular guy, you're gonna have to just deal with it. And that's the unfortunate thing about it. You can't do anything on like a huge level. It can only be micro level. You can be there for yourself. If you have a family, you can be there for your family. You can help them. But as a whole, you can't really make massive changes like that. It's very difficult. It's also it's depressing to know, or at least disheartening, and I understand that. But like, you really can't. And that's one thing my family was very right about. There's no use getting super angry about political things. All you can do is better your situation, and you have to deal with it as it comes, in terms of how the world is around you. For example, once again, the employment thing, in terms of how the world is going, it's ruined because people with more money decided, hey, let's take this easy route and just lie instead of actually looking and seeing if people want jobs. Or there's unrealistic expectations where it's like, oh, you want to come work at Starbucks? Well, where's your degree? Like, what can you do? Are you going to go out and riot? Are you going to go out and attack people? No. All you can do is try to improve yourself as much as you can. And believe me, when it comes to like the NEET experience, not an employment, education, or training, I know very well about that, and it's hellish. It's not fun. It's miserable. When you get something, when you get a job, you have to hold on to it, unless it's absolutely unbearable. And I've had jobs like that, and this is before I was taking my medication. It was horrific. But over time you can find something good. You have to stick to it and try to save up as much as you can. And for me, I have ADHD, which I'm trying to fix, but it makes it difficult because you get so bored and all you want to do is eat or do something like that to make stuff slightly less boring. All you can do is become patient. And by that I mean not spending your money when you're bored, just sitting, trying to be content with what's right in front of you, as opposed to being, what do you call it? Ruminating on the past, or being completely focused on the future. And it's difficult because it can be very, very boring or frustrating. But it's the only way that you can do it, that I've found anyway. Like, it's difficult. I have to, like, for me, I have to lose weight. I have to get in shape. Because societally, if I don't look right, if I don't act right, then I will not progress. And I understand it's difficult, but when you have anger issues, you have to add that onto it as well. If you don't act right, if you get mad, if you say the wrong thing, that could be it. So you have to monitor yourself. You have to weigh the options and the outcomes. You have the option to walk away from negative situations and to not let them get to you. And I'm telling you, if you have anger, you have to walk away, because it's most likely disproportionate. And if it's not, the hammer will still come down on you. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only way to fix the situation is to become aware of yourself and to make sure that you don't cause more problems than you need in your life. You have to walk away from negativity and from anger. Sometimes that means cutting like old friends out of your life, like I had to. What's the point of yelling at someone who won't learn, or who doesn't care, or who puts drugs and their own addiction over their kids, or their family, or the people who care about them, over friendship? There's no point getting angry over it. What does it do? Sitting there and being mad about these people who exist. There's nothing you can do. If they're gonna damn themselves, then they're just going to do it. You can't do anything about it. And it sounds, I don't like saying it, but it's not your problem. Do you understand what I mean? So why would you make it your problem and then make problems for yourself? So, like I said, if you've got anger issues, make sure, or at least if you can get access to a general practitioner through a walk-in clinic, ask them about it. Ask if maybe you can try some sort of a medication for anger, for depression. Like for me, I also have binge eating. The medication I'm on for my ADHD, which is called 5-ANTS, that at a certain dose helps with binge eating, so you don't binge eat. It also helps with paying attention. You combine that, like I do, with Lexapro, which overall helps to just keep you a little more focused. And even if it's not a huge amount, even a little bit helps. And you know, I'm sure, like, feeling like you're stuck in a certain place in your life, which is how I've felt a lot of the time, sometimes even now, that can cause anger. But think about this. If you get angry, if you sabotage yourself with anger, then what? Then, most likely, you're going to be in an even worse position. Anger is kind of toxic. Like, it gets in and it wrecks everything for you. And, like, most of the things, to take it a bit back to when I was saying how there's horrible things happening in other countries, if you're watching from North America, most of the stuff going on is not something to be angry about. Like, yes, it's annoying, but it's not something that is compared to the stuff that goes on all around the world. People get, like, shot all the time. People die all the time. We have the luxury of not having to really deal with that. What do we have to be angry very violent, and mental issues can cause people to be all sorts of things. They can cause irrational thoughts, racist thoughts, things like that. Have you ever, there's some really, really messed up types of OCD that can cause you to think horrific things, but that's not all that person is, you understand? And a lot of people won't accept that. They have to put a spin on it with politics or anything like that. It's not political. It isn't. It's just people don't. They're ignorant to how things are around the world. And even I am ignorant. But I believe that I'm a little bit more aware of how the grand scope of things is. And these things in front of me, just losing weight, that's nothing. It's something I can do. Not getting angry at little things, it's nothing. It's manageable. I don't have to worry about not being able to eat, obviously, for like weeks on end. I don't have to worry about being shot or stabbed or something like that. I'm not a woman, so I don't have to worry about a lot of other horrific things that happen to women specifically that people just, I don't know, don't seem to acknowledge. But it could be worse, you know? And you always have to think about that. It could be worse. And if you go into a situation with anger, that might make the worst thing happen. Oh, dang it. Anger is rarely useful. Rarely. And you know, I'm open to other opinions. I'm open to, if you feel that my advice to try and think about like the bigger picture is wrong, that's completely fine. I'm open in the comments if you feel that way. By all means, feel free to explain your point of view on things. But like, after a while, a lot of the discourse just becomes toxic. And I don't have the answers. Like, one thing that bothers me is that I don't, like, I'll give you an example. One thing that bothers me is I feel like I'm not where I should be in life. I'm still trying to make steps, and I finally am taking steps. And that's a very good thing. But the process can be draining. I understand on the grand scheme of things in the world, that's not even a problem, that's not even a thought. But in my personal life, it is something that bothers me. I feel like I could be doing more with my life. I hope that this channel will be able to help people and can be something that I can be proud of one day, you know? That I can actually help people. Again, on a scale of things on the earth that's way down here. And it's difficult to say that because my life is the only one that I've ever had. I've only ever been me. But I have to understand there's way worse things in the world going on. And I just want to be able to find a way to help others. Like, oh, I'm so sad I couldn't ever be like a musician or whatever. It didn't work out, or I didn't get to make a movie or something. Of course, I'd love to make a movie, but it's, I don't know. I have the cards I was given. You know, it's just a little thing. It's a minute thing, like that hierarchy of needs. It's way on the bottom compared to just the whole state of the world right now. It's something I could get angry about, but it's so micro on the scale of things that it's not even worth it. And that's how a lot of things in life are, I find. I don't know people who don't live in North America how they feel about it, but I don't know. It just seems like people want a reason to be mad. And when you're from here, you really don't have one. At least not on a major scale. Though, granted, things are getting pretty weird now. I don't know. I always feel like I've felt a little bit, not different, but just somewhat, like, there's, I don't know if I want to get into politics really, but it's just weird to me how people are suddenly fine with people dying if they're the person you don't like. If they're the person who goes against, your beliefs, then it's okay if that person dies and you should be happy about it. That seems weird to me. And it's weird to me that people can go to bed thinking they're a good person or that they're righteous by looking at a picture of someone's dead body and thinking, oh well, that person didn't agree with me, so I'm good. You know what I mean? That's another thing. That's something that I find myself getting mad at a lot too. And I don't think it's really even a political issue. It's just a people wanting something to be mad about issue and then causing more problems. It's just bizarre. And then the same person who's happy to see evil just because something bad happens to someone who is bad doesn't mean that you're good for celebrating that bad thing. Does that make sense? I know that's a real tangent, but it just seems like people find any reason to be angry and vicious, and I don't get it. See, I try not to even hate people who are drug addicts, but it's like, why would you do something that's going to cause harm and potentially kill other people? And these drug dealers, what is wrong with them? It's a cliche, but my great-grandmother, who was born in 1925, told me this. She was the grandma I was around the most. Money is the root of all evil, and it can help people a lot, but it really can make people do hideous things. Hideous things. Things that we don't even in North America, you can't understand how bad it is sometimes. And it's not even a political thing. It's a lot. But I remember I told my dad about what my great-grandmother had said. Money is the root of all evil, and he just said, that's what a poor person thinks. And it's like, why would you dismiss this? You're the same guy who slaps his kids. You're the same guy who calls his kids names like a retard. You're the same guy who created 3 children. Meanwhile, I'm the only one who was able to graduate high school. And what's the only connecting line that we have, us 3? Him. But you won't ever hear him saying anything about that, right? Do you see what I mean? There was me going into anger, but it's just negative. And you want to avoid it as much as you can. You have to pick your battles wisely. And most of the time, cooler heads will prevail. Anger just won't get you anywhere. You can make a difference in the world, and that's what I hope to do one day. But most people can't change the world overnight, and you need help, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of rambly, but that's just how I feel about that, I guess. But I don't know. I wanted to make sure that I had some videos more frequently for you guys, and I really do appreciate you being here and listening. I appreciate your input too. When you have ideas for videos, I try to do them, but right now I'm kind of limited. And I don't want to spend more money, because obviously I only have negative balance. I actually have to go to family to get money so that I can get medication right now. I was expecting a rebate from the government, but since I'm bad with money, I didn't have any anyway. Now I have negative money, but that's my cross to bear, right? That's something I have to work on for myself. Having a thing set in place for unexpected expenditures, I believe is the term. And it's something eventually I hope to master. I hope that you, watching, all of you, if there's something negative in your life that you want to master, that you do it, that you achieve your goal, that you're able person who you want to be. And again, I genuinely thank you for even caring to watch this video at all, or for subscribing. So I hope that you have a wonderful day wherever you are, or night, or anything in between, as I usually do say.